sexist and offensive. In the ads, women are seen wearing clothing made of milk under taglines including, quote, drink what she's wearing, and, quote, milk with flair. The photographer, Yaroslav Vychochevich, was chosen to photograph the images because of his Milky Pinups calendar, which recreated pinup-era images using milk. IJ Review reports Fairlife retired the ads back in June after negative feedback from 2 test markets before the planned December launch. The company reports they plan to take a new approach. And 4 years after disappearing from his home in Florida, a teenage boy has been reunited with his mother and family after being found hidden in a crawlspace of a Jonesboro, Georgia house. The boy's father, Gregory Jean, and his wife, Samantha Davis, were arrested. They were charged with false imprisonment, obstruction, and child cruelty. The teen used a Magic Jack device and an old cell phone to send texts and pictures to his mother, who contacted authorities and located the boy. The boy is currently in the custody of Child Services and will be reunited with his family in the near future. This has been Amy Curtis with your Vigilant Liberty Radio News for December 3rd.
Government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Hi, this is Taylor Millard. Be sure to catch my show, Saturday Night Cigar Lounge, right here on Vigilant Liberty Radio. If you don't, I'll add you to my grudge list. Just ask the Washington Examiner's Ash Scow at Saturday Night Cigar Lounge here on Vigilant Liberty Radio.
All right, we are back to Modern Comments Radio Show here on Vigilant Liberty Radio. Thanks for sticking with us through the break. We have with us tonight Katrina Jorgensen, who you can find on Twitter at Verbatim. And we have Dave, who you can find on Twitter at Charnina53219. If you are listening but not in the chat room, please join us. You can go to vigilantlibertyradio.us/chat and click on in the chat room and get part of the conversation. Or you can tweet me on Twitter at Modern Comments, and I will try to work your comments into the show.
Unless, of course, you're listening to the podcast, then why weren't you listening to it live?
If you're listening to the podcast and want to comment, you can still shoot me a message on Twitter, and I'll gladly take time to respond to you. That's not a problem. But, yes, so I'm always open to your comment and your feedback. I have to laugh at Senor Lamella in the chat room, who's amused by Dave's Twitter bio, which says, in part, my wife made me do this, which is the truth. I made him get on Twitter. I nagged him until he did it, and he made it part of his Twitter bio, and I think it's kind of funny. So,
I like it.
Yes. I did make him do this, and he's been a regular part of the show now for several weeks. So he follows the boss. I get to be the boss once in a while, and he occasionally listens to me. Well, like I said, before the break, we were talking about zombies. Now that we're back from the break, I want to take a moment to talk and sort of gloat a little bit about football, because the Green Bay Packers, my favorite team, my home team, and one of the most storied teams in football, is having a remarkable season. I specifically want to touch on this past weekend where we played against the New England Patriots, because if there was a game that we were going to lose, I was sure it was going to be this one. And I actually would not have been surprised if we had lost. I was kind of the mindset that we were going to lose, because the Patriots are having a remarkable year. I greatly dislike him, but Tom Brady is a very, very good quarterback.
And with a very, very naughty mouth.
With a very, very naughty mouth, yes, who did not take the loss well. But in Sunday's game, just looking at, I can't go through all the stats, obviously, but I have in front of me the dead tree paper. And for the passing stats, Tom Brady had 35 attempts, 22 completions, no interceptions for 245 yards, 2 touchdowns, with a passer rating of 102.7. Aaron Rodgers had 38 attempts with 24 completions, 0 interceptions for 368 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a passer rating of 112.6.
He also rushed 5 times for 22 yards.
Yes, so we had a phenomenal game, and we met and exceeded the expectations of, I think, pretty much everybody, and proved that we can compete with a team like the New England Patriots. And I would not be surprised at all if we saw a preview of the Super Bowl coming up.
That's what everybody's advertising about. And I read on some of the New England papers afterwards, because usually for things like blowouts, it's one of my favorite things is to read the other side and gloat in their misery. But the New England papers had a lot of respect for the Packers and said it was a well-played game. It's just that the Packers were simply better. And it was a lot of respect, and we lost this one and move on.
Except for Tom Brady, who, if I can find the link to my tweet where I took a vine of him when we converted
first down.
Converted for first down and pretty much sealed the game. There was a great bit of him on the sidelines dropping the F-bomb 3 or 4 times, clearly displeased that it was clear the New England Patriots were going to lose. And I enjoyed that. I sent out a tweet on a Vine with a hashtag that said, "Make Tom Brady swear." Because my thing for the whole game was make Tom Brady cry. But we did one better, and we sent him into rage spirals of swearing. So
the Packers live blog, unfortunately, they removed it or it wasn't on there. Somebody said Tom Brady after the game, they had a picture of Ralphie from Christmas Story with that thing in his mouth after he said a bad word.
The soap?
Yeah. Soap in his mouth.
Oh, they took it down, probably to avoid there being, the latest social media outrage. But yeah, so they are having a remarkably good season. I want to talk more in depth about this probably on another program because we have so much else I want to cover. But they've been doing a new training regimen. You look at their number of injuries between last year and this year, including Rodgers, who was out for, I believe it was 8 weeks last season with a broken collarbone. What was that, Taylor?
Yeah, but he broke a collarbone. That's one of those freak injuries that I don't think a training can solve.
No. But there were other injuries that I think that this training regimen has helped. I mean, our injury report that I'm looking at right now, there are 6 people on the injury list. Last year, I don't even have a count of how many there were, but it was far more than 6. And if we don't count Rodgers, obviously, then we still had a ton of injuries last year. Even our backup to Aaron Rodgers got injured. Seneca Wallace pulled his groin muscle and had to be replaced by a third-string QB. And that's how rough things were for us last year.
Got Matt Flynn back.
Yeah, we got Matt Flynn back, but
now known as the human victory cigar.
Yeah, because he's come in for several games this season where the Packers have been up handily by 40 points. So there's no need to keep the starting quarterback in. So it has been a really enjoyable season to be a Packer fan. And even when the seasons are not so enjoyable, I'm still a Packer fan, but I'm looking forward to what comes up. And if they do make it all the way to the big dance, then party at our place because we are going to celebrate in style. So kudos to them, and I hope things keep going the way they are going. And now we are going to get into, Katrina, your topic this evening that you mentioned to me that I read up on, and that's a report that the United Nations World Food Program is canceling its food program to Syria due to shortage of funds. Do you want to give us a little bit of a background on that?
Sure. So the World Food Program is obviously run out of the UN, which I'm sure most people are aware that the UN is mostly funded by Americans. And there's over 3 million Syrian refugees that have been displaced due to the conflict there, not just with ISIS, but beforehand when they were having a lot of people are calling it a civil war, but honestly, it was much more like the Assad regime cracking down on anybody who wanted democracy. So between Iraq, Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, there are lots of refugees. Just pretty much every bordering country around Syria has taken people, except unfortunately Israel. Israel hasn't taken that many refugees, but pretty much all the surrounding countries have, and enough where Lebanon actually shut their doors and said, we can't take any more refugees. We're actually at capacity. And people are still trying to stream over into the border. And a lot of the people who were in Iraq are ending up in other places. And it's just a terribly tragic situation. And the money's just run out. They've been keeping these people paid for since March 2011, and there's just no more money left. And now, and it's the worst time of the year too, because I know people think of the Middle East as being deserts, and deserts are automatically hot, but there was snow in Syria last Christmas, so it can be very cold, and the refugee camps are not necessarily, I mean, they're tent communities. It's really terrible. And the fact that we've run out of funding didn't surprise me. I'm surprised that they kind of said it right as it was happening. They're like, well, we're out of money. Like right now, we're done. 1.7 million people now can't get food, or World Food Program also through the UN provides other things, blankets and other necessities, sometimes medicine, like basics, like over-the-counter type medicine as well. So obviously none of those things will be happening. There's been an appeal by the UN to try and get people to donate more, and countries to donate more, and even individuals to donate like $1 for a Syrian refugee. I actually encourage you, if you're listening to this, to consider doing that, because it's just incredibly tragic what's happened to these people. And the people that are refugees from Syria are not ISIS, right? That they're not terrorists. Mm-hmm. These are people who have been displaced from their homes trying to escape the violence. A lot of them aren't even revolutionaries, though probably some of them were. They might be related to people who are in the Free Syrian Army. And I know I haven't spoken about this on this show in particular before, but as somebody who used to work in nonprofits that provided aid to Syria, this is something I'm very, very knowledgeable about. And a lot of these people really did want democracy and better government for Syria. And then, like, this is not... They weren't jihadists. In fact, Syria was pretty chill for Middle Eastern countries back in the day. Most of the issues going on in Syria aren't even religious. They're now they a little bit are, because of ISIS coming in saying they want all of this for the Islamic State. But it was much more about government and principles. So,
well, one of the tragedies of this, same thing happening in Iraq in recent years, is that a lot of ancient Christian communities are getting displaced.
For sure.
That have been there since the time of the apostles. Mm-hmm. There's Syria, Lebanon had, Lebanon, most notably with the Maronite Christians, but people don't know that not all Arabs are Muslims. There are a sizable number of Arab Christians, and a lot of them are in Syria. And under the Assad regime, for whatever else, the brutality of the regime, they were pretty well protected.
Right. In fact, there were, for a long time, even into the Civil War, there were a lot of Christians in Syria that were still okay with Assad being in charge. A lot of them have changed their tune, almost 4 years later. But, 2 years ago, you could still find Christians that were like, maybe Assad should still stay in government, because they were so worried that an overturn of Assad would mean that they would get run out because the Christian minority was protected. Obviously, that has changed as the Christians saw that Assad was a friend to no one and was just willing to, bomb civilians and the kind of stuff that you've been seeing the entire time. A couple other numbers to just throw at you. On top of the Syrian refugees, which are in excess of 3 million people, the death toll is 2,000 people over 200,000. So it's 202 right now with 3 zeros. That's the death toll that's being done by the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. Note that the UN quit counting the death toll last year. They were just like, the number's too high. We don't have ways to make sure this number is real. So we're just going to stop counting.
Man.
And they were only a little above 100,000 then. And so just this past year, we've exceeded another 100,000 people dead. There's another 300,000 people in Syrian jails that are supposedly still alive that have just been taken during this period of time. And then there's at least 20 to 40,000 people who are just missing. We don't know where they are. They're dead or in jail.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I have a question how this situation went up with Bashir Assad. Maybe people might not know he succeeded his father, Hafez, who could get pretty brutal himself.
Right.
I know he dealt with Islamic fundamentalists 3 years ago by wiping out a whole town. Mm-hmm. But did Bashir not have the same? I mean, Hafez kept the peace. Whatever else happened, he even was with us on the first Gulf War. But what happened that Bashir lost control?
So it's really kind of interesting